So this is done. Then the second thing would be to put the information here. So it's a good place to create something separate, like a cards that will take some kind of number and then the name that we are going to hold. And then we're going to create 4 of these. So let's create separate file. And in that separate file, we are going to create a cards. So let me choose Command N, SwiftUI file. Next, this is going to be called total data view. The total data view will be actually all of these. All right, so this all area will be coded here. But to do that, we would need to have like a blueprint of a special card, separate card. So let's create another SwiftUI file and call this data card view. Okay, and our data card, again, as I said, is going to have this like a background, which is a rounded rectangle, and the text of the number we are going to pass in, the name that we are going to pass in, and then the background color, because depending on the dark mode or light mode, we are going to switch the color. Okay, so the card is going to have 2 parameters, actually 3. Var number is a string. Yes, we're going to pass a string here, and I'm going to set it by default to 2 lines here, so it means like it's empty spot there. And we have var name, again it's a string, and by default I will say error, like we are expecting or we didn't get any data. If we don't set this, it means we didn't get any data. And color, as you can see, we have different colors here. We're passing green, black, red, so we want to make them dynamic. So when I pass color, and by default we will set it to primary. All right, so these are the 3 parameters we need to pass. But even if we don't pass specific parameter, since we have set default value, the default value will be used instead if some parameters are not passed. The next thing would be is to create our card. So we are going to create it depending on our the size of our screen. So let's say on a smaller iPhone we want to have this card size smaller, and on a bigger screen we can use more, we have more screen real estate and we can make them bigger. So to get this, we need to use geometry reader, and we pass geometry in, and then I'm going to use a VStack because it's a vertical. So we have text on the top, text at the bottom, and then we just give it some kind of background. Let's just pass some spacing of 10 points here, and our VStack will have text, and it will be self.number, which goes on the top. And let's add a font to this. It's gonna be a sub headline, and foreground color is going to be self.color. So whatever the color we are passing is going to be our text color. And then if I copy this and paste it underneath, let's just resume so we can have a visually see what's going on. And instead of number here, I'm going to pass the name. And one more, resume. This time, instead of sub headline, I will be using body, and the foreground color, again, we want to be the whatever the color we are passing. So far we have this. So now on the VStack, let's add a frame, and the width I'm going to use our geometry dot size dot width. So whatever is our screen, we are going to use that. And the height, I'm going to code it to 80. Alignment with to center. So this is what we have now. So our view goes end to end on our screen. The second thing is to set some kind of background, which will be color. And we need to pass some kind of color here. So to do that, we are going to our assets catalog, and we're going to create a color object here that is going to be, it will have two options depending on we are on a dark or light background. And in order to create that, we just right click and say new color set. And here we have two options, any appearance, which can be white or dark if we didn't set it, and then for dark. So select any appearance, and on the right side you need to open the panel so we can actually choose the color. So while on any appearance, the red we are going to set to 0.88837. The green is going to be 0.837. And same for the blue is going to be 0.837. So as you can see, this is some kind of grayish color. And for the dark appearance, we are going to set the red to be 0.110. Let me just copy this. I put a comma here, not a point. The same goes with our green, comma 110, and this 0.118. This becomes some kind of dark gray color or close to black. So now we need to rename this color. Depending on how you call it, you have to use the proper name so you can access the color here. It's like if you had an image here, you need to access it, you need to call the right name. So this will be our card. Background. So I'm going to copy this, and then let's go back to our data card, and we don't need the panel here anymore. And now we can use the name of the color that we have. We just pass it here as a string. So let me resume. And now you can see the color is here. And then the last thing, we want to do it in make it nice rounded rectangle. So we add our corner radius of, let's put 8.8 or 10 point, both of them would work. So this is our blueprint for each card. So now we have access to this information. We can reuse it in our total data view. And here we are going to use 4 cards, if you remember how our visual interface is. So let's get rid of our text here, and I'm going to create a V stack. All right, so this will be our vertical stack, and each V stack will have a H stack, horizontal stack, with 1 card on each side. So our V stack will have a H stack, and H stack would have 2 data card views, and we need to pass in the number, the name, and the color. So let me just pass some dummy information here. Number is going to be 0, name, test, color, let's just put red, and resume. So we have our card. I'm going to copy this and paste one more time. Let's check it. Now we have 2 cards there. So the second thing I need to do is double this. So we have 4 cards. And now we don't want to hard code and pass zeros around. Instead, we would like to pass some real data. So to do that, we actually need to pass in a total data object. So I would say var total data is a type of total data. And we could this now complains that we are this is just a part of our preview. If you want to just fix it, you now need to pass our total data item. And remember, we have this dummy data. We can pass it, and this, so our view here that we can see, it knows what information to pass here. Right, now instead of hard coding this, we want to make it dynamic and use whatever we pass through our total data. So I will say total data dot confirmed would be the number of items, and then instead of the name we will say total data dot, and we want to use actually the name we don't pass through our total data. The first one will be confirmed. I'm not going to pass color here because if you remember how our view looks, the first one is black, which is our default color, so I don't have to pass that in. And here our total data confirmed is actually a number, and we promise that we are going to send number into our card, which is going to be a string. So we need to format this. We're going to do it in just a minute. The second one I'm going to pass is our total data dot and we want to pass active, and here instead of test we say active, and active I'm going to set to green color. So this should turn to, okay, it actually there is an error, that's why we don't see any preview, but let's quickly fill up everything and go fix our error. On the second line we have the death and death percentage. So I will say total data dot deaths, and we'll pass here deaths, and the second one will be death percentage, and here is going to be total data dot fatality rate. Our fatality rate I think we can even fix now because this is a decimal, and we don't want to show so many zeros after the decimal point. So I will say it's going to be string with a format, and the format is going to be percentage dot to f, which basically says we want 2 decimal points after our number, and the number is going to be our whatever the fatality rate we are passing in. This we want to be red, and this we want to be red as well. So the only thing we need to fix is these integers that we are passing in. We want to convert them into string, and to do that we are going to use some kind of extensions. So let's go and create a new Swift file. I'm going to call this extension plus int, and here we're going to create two extension, actually one extension with 2 formats. So we'll create an extension to an integer, and the first one will be we can call this func format number, and it's going to return a string. And we're going to say let formatter is equals to a number formatter, we initialize one, and then we say formatter dot grouping separator. This is we're providing a symbol that is going to separate like 1,000, 100,000, 10,000, etc. And then we say formatter dot number style is equals dot decimal, and finally return our formatter dot string from, and we will pass our whatever our value is. It's ns number value of self. So we call this on our integer, and it's going to convert our integer into string using the specific format that we have provided. And we need to unwrap this because it may not be able to convert this into string, but we are sure that it's going to happen, so we can safely unwrap this. The second one, I will show you the both ways. You don't have to create a func. You can create also a variable rounded with abbreviation, and this is also a string, so it's basically the same thing. You can convert it to var. I just remove this number, and I just say that it's going to return a string. So I'm just trying to show you both ways how to use them. So I'm going to keep one of them as function and the other one as a variable, so you can see the difference. Actually, it doesn't make any difference in our case anyway. So we say let number equals, and we're going to use double here to convert our integer into a double. Then we say let million equals number, and we're going to divide it to 1 million. I'm putting the under scores here is just for us to easily read it. For Swift, it doesn't matter. You write it like that or just like this with 16 zeros. So it's easier for us to read it. So the idea here is if we have a big numbers, let's say 10 million, I don't want to have 10 and then 6 zeros after that, so it's harder to read. I would want to convert it into 10 and then m next to it, so it will be like 10 million. So we'll say if million is greater than or equals to 1, so if our number is in million range, we are going to return, and we're going to return a text with string interpolation, and we are going to get the rounded number, and we pass our million times 10, and we're going to divide this to 10 and put an m afterwards, stands for million. Else, if our number is not in million range, we just want to return our number as it is. Let me see what's the problem here. I have the string interpolation around million times 10 divided to 10. Oh, string and not some stride there. Okay, and we do one more return, and if this is the case, we're going to just use our self dot formatted number command P. Okay, the build failed, but the problem is not here. We have created our extension. We're going to go back so we can use it, which